it's me, Mike, with HPDS. In this video, I will be reviewing Genesis 49. Genesis chapter 49, I'll be going over that one. Um, so please like the video and subscribe to the channel for chapter by chapter Bible studies. Um, Before I get started, I'll go ahead and say the Lord's Prayer. So, our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be thy name. May your kingdom come. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Please give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our debt as we forgive those in debt to us. And Lord, lead us not into temptation, but instead deliver us from the evil one. Amen. So, Genesis 49, I'll go ahead and give a quick outline. What we'll see in Genesis 49 is that basically in verses 1 through 28, we're going to see that Jacob blesses the 12, he blesses his 12 sons. So Jacob blesses the 12 children of Israel, and that'll be verses 1 through 28. And then verses 29 through 33, which is the end of the chapter, we'll see that Jacob dies. It says Jacob yielded up his ghost, is the way it's put, but he dies at the end of this one. So Jacob is Israel, remember, and Jacob is Israel, and Israel is 147 years old, and he dies in chapter 49. And just in case, I'll go ahead and go a review over Genesis 48. Genesis 48, we read that Joseph brought his sons to Israel. So Joseph brought his son to Israel. Jacob is Israel. I don't know if I missed it. I always get these names. Names are hard to keep in place sometimes. Jacob is Israel. Joseph is his son. In Genesis 48, Joseph brings his sons to his father Israel, and Israel blesses his grandchildren, which are Ephraim and Manasseh, and he also adopts them into the promise that is given to them by God in the future generations. And this chapter will also expand on the 12 tribes of Judah, the 12 tribes of Israel, and why we didn't see Levi as one of the inheritance, was one of the pieces of the inheritance. So I'll go ahead and read Genesis 49, and then I'll go over it afterwards, line by line. So let me make sure I got this set up. There it goes. And Genesis 49 reads, "And Jacob called unto his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. Unstable as water thou shalt not excel, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed, then defiledst thou it. He went up to my couch. Simeon and Levi are brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly, mine honor. Be not thou united, for in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they dig down a wall. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. Thy father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be. binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. Issachar is a strong ass couching down between two burdens. And he saw that rest was good, and that the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant unto tribute. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. I have waited for thy salvation, O Lord. God, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Naphtali is a hind let loose, he giveth goodly words. And Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. But his bow abide in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. Even by the God of thy father, who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breasts and of the womb. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills, and they shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. All these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is it that their father spake unto them, and blessed them. Every one according to his blessings he blessed them. And he charged them, and said unto them, I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife, and there I buried Leah. The purchase of the field and of the cave that is therein was from the children of Heth. And when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed, and yielded up the ghost, and was gathered unto his people. So that's Genesis 49 in its entirety. And once again, I'll go over it. What did we come across? We saw that for a while there, it was the first part of this verses 1 through 28. We see that Jacob is blessing these 12 tribes of Israel. And these 12 tribes ultimately are going to make up this particular map. And let me go ahead and get into showing this, so that I can go over it. But there's this particular map, and I showed it in the last video in the study of Genesis 48. But I think I got that going. There it goes. So this is the 12 tribes of ancient Israel, and these are these 12 tribes that are currently being blessed in the first part of chapter 49. Verses 1 through 28, we're going to just read about all these blessings, and then we're going to go into verses 29 to 33, where Jacob basically dies, and he's telling them that he's going to need to be buried over here in Canaan. So they are currently, the family is they're over here in Goshen, And so they're gonna. You can see how far Canaan is. It's about a couple of 100 miles away or so. Uh, and they're over here, and he's dying, and he's telling them that even though I'm over here, you need to bury me out in Canaan, out in this Machpelah, which is where they were buried. And I remember quite a while ago when I showed Abraham, there's actually you can find some sort of place that is still, this cave is still out there to this day. It's called the Cave of the Patriarchs or something, the Grave of the Patriarchs. I might as well look it up and bring it up. Let's see. It's called the Cave of the Patriarchs, Tomb of the Patriarchs. That's what it's called, the Tomb of the Patriarchs, out there in Hebron. It's still out there, the Cave of Machpelah, and so you can actually go out there to this day and visit it. So, but that's where he's telling them he wants to be buried, and it's over here. And these 12, I'll read through these blessings and I'll go over these blessings, but these blessings amount to this, ultimately, this kind of a map over here. So let me go ahead and start through it. Let's see. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. So mind you, this is the blessings here. And these blessings, like I said, as I've been saying throughout previous videos, that they're very prophetic. These blessings are prophetic, and God keeps them. God is the one that makes them happen, even though these are the guys saying them. These guys are saying it. God is the one that is ultimately in charge of it, and he's the one making it happen. So that's why that's why he tells them right there, this is what's going to befall you in the last days. And he's telling them, gather yourselves together and listen to your father Israel. And he tells them, Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity, and the excellency of power. So Reuben is the firstborn, and I can go ahead and take a look at this. Reuben is the firstborn, and so he's saying, unstable as water, thou shalt not excel. He's telling them, because you went up to thy father's bed and defiledest it. And he went up to my couch. So what is he talking about? Well, that comes from Genesis 35. Back in Genesis 35, we came across an incident in which Reuben sleeps with Bilhah, and that's in Genesis 35 verses 21. So let me go ahead and bring that up. 35:21. We read that, and it came to pass, 22, and it came to pass when Israel dwelt in the land that Reuben went in and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard of it. Now so Bilhah was one of the that was basically, Bilhah was the mother of Dan and Naphtali, and Dan and Naphtali are Reuben's brothers, and Reuben went in and slept with their mother. So this is an abomination kind of deal. He defiled the couch there. So that's why he's telling him that was so bad that coming up in Genesis 49, when he gets the blessing, he's hearing that you're not going to excel at all because you're unstable and you went up, and this is bad. This is unstable as water. He's calling him mentally ill. We would think of that too. Like, you just can't be trusted. You shall not excel. And look at the kinds of things that you do. And then we get into Simeon and Levi. So we do see that, but let's take a look at Reuben and where his inheritance may lie. So Reuben, he gets just a small. You see, it's right out here, and he tells him he's not really gonna excel. So we'll see what kind of people these Reubenites end up being in later chapters. We'll keep that in mind, and we'll see his area. And And we'll see that, look, that's the firstborn right here. The firstborn should have probably had the most, remember? This whole thing has been about portions. We've talked about portions. Joseph got a double portion here, and it's seen in Manasseh. But Reuben, who should be the firstborn, who should have the biggest portion, look, he doesn't have anything. Judah has more. Simeon, Gad, all these, most of these guys have just as much as him, even though he's the firstborn. So, but now we hear about Simeon and Levi, our brethren. Instruments of cruelty are in their habitations. So this is referring. We're gonna read that. Let's read these 3 lines. O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly. Mine honor, be not thou united. For in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they dig down a wall. Cursed be their anger, for it was fierce, and their wrath, for it was cruel. I will divide them in Jacob and scatter them in Israel. So these 3 lines talk about Simeon and Levi. So what's going on with Simeon and Levi? We're going to see that Simeon over here is going to be kind of like landlocked. It's going to be surrounded by Judah. So Judah, of course, we're going to read about him, how he's going to basically, the scepter is going to stay in his, and the lawgiver is going to come out of Judah. But Simeon is basically separated from everybody else, and that's what it says. He keeps them, let them not be united. He says, I will divide them in Jacob. So Simeon is the one divided, and scatter them in Israel. And Levi is the one that is scattered in Israel. And that's why what we see is that there's no tribe of Levi. We see Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh, Zebulun, Issachar, Manasseh, Gad, Benjamin, Ephraim, Dan, Judah, Simeon, Reuben. But we don't see anything about Levi. Where's the Levi? And we don't see Joseph, but Joseph is represented from Manasseh and Ephraim, through Manasseh and Ephraim. But there's nothing about Levi. And we'll find out later on, because Levi gets the cities. They get various cities, and they get the priesthood. So they're going to be the priests when we come to read about that. And that's something that's going to be set up by Moses. Moses will explain it all while they're out there, because we'll come across that when they go out from the Egypt. They're going to be kind of in this area for a while. For about 40 years, they're going to be in this desert in between Egypt and the land of Canaan. And they're really not going to move up into Canaan until after about 40 years. And then they go in and establish Israel. And ultimately, this is the map that comes from after that, after they go in and take over. After the Exodus, of course. But we read about that through Moses while they're out there in that desert. So Judah, thou art he whom thy brethren shall praise. Thy hand shall be in the neck of thine enemies. My father's children shall bow down before thee. Judah is a lion's whelp. From the prey, my son, thou art gone up. He stooped down. He couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh come, and until him shall the gathering of the people be. Binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. So this is kind of a long one about Judah. So Judah is talking about, he's hinting again about Jesus Christ. So he's saying from the line of Judah is going to be somebody special. And he's going to say it's going to be something about Judah he's going to say the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver until Shiloh come. And remember, Shiloh is something out there in Ephraim. It looks to be a town in Ephraim. So we'll have to keep that in mind, that Judah is going to be in charge until something happens with Ephraim, comes in and takes the scepter, apparently. And unto him shall the gathering of the people be, binding his foal unto the vine, and his ass's colt unto the choice. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes. So we're seeing kind of the hinting of somebody that washes his garments in wine and his blood and his clothes in the blood of grapes. So we're seeing something like it's seeming kind of violent, like an image of somebody who's gonna be bloodied. And his eyes shall be red with wine, and his teeth white with milk. Talking about, these are just kind of attributes given that are gonna be. We'll see who they come up with, but who they who. But ultimately, what I'm trying to get at is, how am I saying this? Jesus Christ is the person that they normally acknowledge this with. He's when he shows up, and so forth. But it's just a hint at him, and it's coming from the line of Judah. And we'll see that far down the line that Judah is going to be part of the bloodline somewhere down the line. But he continues on with Zebulon. Zebulon shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his borders shall be unto Zidon. So see, he's even mentioning this. So he's saying he's going to be dwell at the haven of the sea. So I don't see that in this particular map. He doesn't seem to be on a sea, but doesn't mean he's not on the river. So I don't know what that means, but this map does not show that. Zebulon does not appear to be on that. But I will have to keep that in mind. And his border shall be unto Zidon. Issachar is a strong ass couching down between two burdens. And he saw that the rest was good, and the land was pleasant, and he bowed his shoulder to bear and became a servant unto tribute. So he's saying that Issachar is gonna kind of just become a servant there. And so Issachar, where's Issachar at? There it is, Issachar. It's gonna be between two, and so we see you could be referring to Manasseh, perhaps, that he's going to pay tribute, but that's what we're saying. We're going to have to take a look. We're going to keep in mind all these blessings, because these blessings will be played out when they actually inherit that land and as they go through their history. Let's see. And it says that, let's see, Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel's. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse heel, so that his rider shall fall backward. I have waited for thy salvation, O Lord. So that's interesting. What is, I'm not entirely sure what this one is, but he's saying that Dan is going to be kind of it sounds like a bad person. He's going to be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path. So that's kind of symbolic of the evil one that is talked about way back in Genesis 3 when he came around. He's going to be that snake, and he's going to bite so, and then we even hear him crying out to, oh Lord, I waited for thy salvation. So that's Joseph. I mean, that's Jacob, Israel over here crying out after he mentions how bad Dan is. And keep in mind, too, I didn't really go over that, too, but back here when we read in verse 6, when we're talking about Simeon and Levi, it read, come, O my soul, come not thou into their secret, unto their assembly, mine honor, be not thou united, for in their anger they slew a man, and in their self-will they dig down a wall. So just like Dan is seemingly, kind of acting like this blessing seems like he's a bad guy, so bad that Israel had to cry out to God after the blessing. Oh, it was a bad blessing, like, look at him. He's going to be pretty bad. And here it's kind of the same thing where he's acknowledging how bad Simeon and Levi were. He was telling them, who knows what kind of secrets they have. Don't come into their secret unto their assembly. And keep in mind when I mentioned that the Levites are going to ultimately inherit they're going to be the priests of the group. So Levi is going to be the priests, and that's why they're going to be scattered. They don't have any country here. They're just going to have cities, and they're going to be scattered. But you hear him, he's already telling them, don't come into their assembly, like, oh, my soul, he's crying out like, how bad their secret is. Like these guys were pretty bad people, and their assembly is don't go into it. He's mentioning that these guys were probably some bad characters. Simeon and Levi themselves, they were out there doing some things that Jacob knew they were doing some bad things that he didn't even want to know about. He just doesn't want to even know, and he was sure that they had secrets that he didn't want to know about. So so that's what we're also kind of hearing from Dan. Dan's gonna judge his peoples as one of the tribes. So we're gonna see what that means. Dan is gonna come to show them something about the people, but he's also gonna act like a serpent. He's gonna be a bad guy, but he's still gonna judge them. And that's why I've waited for thy salvation, O Lord. So he's crying out like, that's bad. I'm waiting for your salvation, O Lord. And now we're gonna read. Let's keep going. Though Gad is a troop. A troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. So once again, let's go take a look at Gad. Gad is gonna be overtaken, but he'll succeed at the last. He shall overcome at the last. And it says, out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Asher, so wrong picture. Asher over here. That's what he's talking about. Asher. Asher is gonna be fat bread and yield royal dainties. And Naphtali is a hind let loose. He giveth goodly words. So Naphtali is gonna be like some sort of a good speaker or something along those lines. We're gonna have to figure it out, and ultimately we gotta keep track of these people and their histories, and we'll have to see what goes on in the books of Judges and in the Chronicles and so forth. But we'll have to read through their history to see what exactly these blessings lead up to. Because at the beginning we did read, remember, he's saying that they shall befall you in the last days. So he's being really prophetic with these blessings, and he's talking about the future, you know. And so after Naphtali, there's the good words. We come into Joseph. Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, whose branches run over the wall. So he's talking about how fruitful Joseph is. And we recognize that was definitely the case in Egypt. He was the guy, he was so fruitful that everybody had to come buy food from him for those 7 years. And he basically, everybody had to sell everything just to keep, to buy the food that he was able to provide through God. So he was a very fruitful bow. And so it says, the archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. And so this is definitely like a remark about the other brothers. The other brothers have grieved him and shot at him and hated him. But it's saying that, but his bow, and this bow is not the same bow as this bow. This is like a fruit bow. And this is like a bow that shoots bow and arrows, like the archers. So this bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. So it's and he says, from thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. So it's really, it's hinting again at God, and this is kind of another hint at Jesus. He's the good shepherd and so forth. Even by thy God of thy father, who shall help thee, and by the Almighty, who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breast and of the womb. So he's saying this God, is the same God that strengthened Joseph over here, is the God that is everything. He blesses everything, and he blesses you with from heaven. He blesses with the deep. He, the flesh and the womb. He is the same, even by the God. This God that blesses Joseph is the only God that blesses anything and gives blessings. That's what he's making it known, that this is one God. This one God does everything, and all blessings come from him. And he says, the blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brother. So let's find out what progenitors mean. A person or thing from which a person, animal, or plant is descended or originates, an ancestor or a parent. So he's talking about his family line, his own parents. Like, so he says, the blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting. So he's saying that my blessings, so he's saying that the blessings of thy father, which is Israel, have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors, uh, unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. So he's saying that, look at the blessings that were given to Joseph are far more great. They're above, prevailed above the blood. So he's saying that they got more blessings in their short life than their progenitors got, who ended up being older. So keep that in mind. That's what he's saying. He's saying that our blessings were just increasing and increasing. They increased so much with Joseph over here, that they prevailed above the blessings that were given to, say, Isaac and Abraham and so forth. That's what he's saying. Our blessings were so much greater. They prevailed, and they're gonna be on the head of Joseph and on the head of him that was separate from his brethren. So he's talking about these tribes, and remember, he did mention that Ephraim was going to be greater than Manasseh. So he's really talking about Ephraim is going to be something great, and that's why even Shiloh is in Ephraim. So you got to keep that in mind, that he's talking about something great coming out of Ephraim, and in the time up until then, Judah is going to be in control. So that's what he's really getting at. That's what he's kind of coming down to at the end with this one right here. But then he gets into the Benjamin, the youngest. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. And so we kind of see that the same thing is again, like kind of a bad kid. Let's see, search for raven, violent seizure of property or plunder. And we do see, I believe, Benjamin is where we're gonna see some bad things come out of Benjamin, some uprisings. I think the first king, the bad king, King Saul, I believe is gonna be from the tribe of Benjamin as well. But we see Benjamin right there, close to Ephraim and close to Judah. But it seems like he's also kind of talking about the bad things that Benjamin is gonna be too. He's like a raven as a wolf, so it's kind of a bad analogy there. But all these are the 12 tribes of Israel, and this is it that their father spake unto them and blessed them. Everyone according to his blessing, he blessed them. So you see, he gave them according to their blessing. These are the blessings that God gave him to give them. And so, and then after that, we get into the last part. That's verses 1 through 28. Was that those blessings? So verses 29 through the end of the chapter 33. Like I said, we're gonna see that Jacob dies, and so it says he charges them, and so he tells them, "I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite." So he makes feel that there's that field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre. And he says that this is that same one that Abraham bought. And Abraham was buried there. And they buried Abraham and Sarah, his wife. And they buried Isaac and Rebekah. And there I buried Leah. So you see, all these people are burying, this is a kind of family burial place. And that's where he's telling them he needs to be buried. And so the purchase of the field and the cave that is therein was from the children of Heth. And when Jacob had made an end commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into bed and yielded up the ghost and was gathered unto his people. So yeah, he basically he gives them these last commands. He's telling them in his old age, as I'm dying, he's telling them, make sure you bury me out there where my forefathers. Don't bury me here in Egypt, is what he had told them. So, but yep, that is Genesis 49. And once again, I'll go over it one last time. The review of it is basically we saw that Jacob blessed his 12 children, which were the 12 tribes. Those 12 tribes and those blessings are going to amount to, they kind of explain why, for example, we're not going to see a tribe of Joseph, for example, We're going to see Manasseh and Ephraim instead, because that comes from the adoption. And it also explains why Levi don't the tribe of Levi, they don't have any territory, and it's because they're scattered in Israel, and that's from that blessing, that's mentioned between Simeon and Levi. And so, and then we're gonna also, we come across Benjamin is another one that we're gonna read about. He's, but Dan, and there's a few other people a few of the other brothers that they all have blessings, but they're gonna be like very prophetic, and they're gonna play out in the rest of the history of Israel proceeding forward. But of course, right now they are in Egypt. They're with the Pharaoh, and if we remember from Abraham, way back in Abraham had a dream, and his dream was, the horror comes upon him, and I believe that's when Abraham was the one told that, that he's told, make sure, be rest assured, or know for a surety that your children are gonna be in a foreign land for 400 years, and they'll be oppressed, and then afterwards I would bring them out, and God says, I will bring them out and I will judge that nation that oppressed them. So this is that land that they're going to be there for 400 years, and we're getting into the end of the chapter. This is Genesis 49. There's only one more chapter after Genesis 49, and that is, of course, Genesis 50, and that will be the last chapter. And we'll read, I'll do the next video in Genesis 50. But Genesis 49 is the blessing of the 12 tribes, which is very prophetic. It kind of explains why, the country is set up the way it's set up. And then, of course, it just explains where Israel was buried in his ancestral burial place. So I'm gonna go ahead and end this video here, and I'll go ahead and say, like I said, one more time, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for future chapter by chapter Bible studies. God bless anyone that may be watching, and I pray that we all bless Jesus Christ, and may Jesus Christ bless all of us. Amen.